October 2000. A car dealership outside Toronto. A young man walks in carrying a stack of crisp $100 bills. He's paying for a set of custom rims. The cashier counts the cash once. Smiles. Counts it again. Slower this time. Every bill feels right. The hologram shifts color when she tilts it. The microprinting is sharp under the desk lamp. The paper has weight. But 3 of the bills share the exact same serial number. She slides them under the counter and reaches for the phone. That single moment is about to end one of the most sophisticated counterfeiting operations in Canadian history. The man's name is Wesley Weber. His weapon wasn't a printing press hidden in a warehouse. It was a printer you could buy at Staples for $200. And for 2 years, it nearly broke the Bank of Canada. A high school in Windsor, Ontario, late 1980s, just past midnight. A teenage boy crouches behind a row of lockers, breathing slow. His friend stands by the side door, watching the parking lot through a crack in the frame. The hallway smells like floor wax and fluorescent light. The boy's hands shake. Not from fear, from something else. They're not stealing because they need money. They're stealing because no one expects them to. By morning, the local newspaper will run a front-page story. Professional thieves from Detroit. $270,000 in equipment. Gone. The teenage boy will read that paper in his classroom the next day, surrounded by classmates buzzing with theories. He won't say a word. But something will have shifted in the way he carries himself. He's tasted what most quiet kids never get to feel. The thrill of being underestimated. The power of doing something everyone else assumed was impossible. His name is Wesley Weber. He's the kind of teenager who skips parties to read printer manuals. The kind who can take a computer apart on his bedroom floor and put it back together before his mother gets home from her shift. The kind who watches the world from a safe distance and decides, very early, that he doesn't trust it. By his early 20s, he's running quiet operations out of his apartment. A welfare card on the kitchen table, an X-Acto blade in his hand, classical music on the radio. Forged checks for friends, insurance documents for people who can't get them legally. Small, careful, profitable work. In 1997, the police catch him. 3 months in prison. He walks out at 23 with a record, a reputation, and one new idea growing in his head. Canada had just refined its $100 bill. New security features. New paper. The bill had been dubbed one of the hardest in North America to fake. Weber takes that personally. A few weeks after his release, he sits at a cluttered desk in a basement. A real $100 bill on the left, his first counterfeit attempt on the right. He flips on a small ultraviolet lamp. The real bill stays dark. His copy glows like a nightlight. He stares at it for a long time. Then he picks up the phone and calls Dustin. "I need you to come over. I've got a problem." Dustin shows up an hour later. He looks at the glowing bill. He looks at Weber. "That's bad," he says. "That's one of 2 problems," Weber answers. "The other one is worse." He flips the bill over and points to a small square patch on the corner of the real currency. The optical security device. A holographic foil with embedded polymer dots that shift color when tilted. Weber's counterfeit doesn't have it at all. "You can't print that," Dustin says. "No," Weber agrees. "You can't." He pauses. Then he smiles for the first time that night. "But you can buy it, if you know who to ask." The team grows in the weeks that follow. Ryan handles the protective coating that locks ink to paper. Anthony oversees logistics. 4 men, 1 basement, 1 impossible idea. The fix would require something no counterfeiter had ever attempted before. He wasn't going to break into a foil supplier. He was going to make them deliver the foil to his door. The phone rings inside a holographic foil supplier in the United States. A polite, articulate voice introduces himself as Mr. Webb, CEO of a Canadian printing company called Pro Custom Graphics. He explains that his firm handles high-end commercial work, specialty packaging, premium gift cards, corporate clients who need custom holographic finishing on small print runs. "We've been looking for a reliable supplier for about 6 months," the voice says. "Most of the houses up here can't deliver to spec." The voice belongs to Wesley Weber. He's reading from a script he wrote 3 nights earlier, taped to the wall above his desk. The supplier asks the obvious questions: volume, application, industry references. Weber answers all of them. Forged invoices, fake clients, a web address for a company that doesn't exist, but when checked that morning, looked like it did. "I can put together a sample order," the supplier says. "That would be excellent," Weber answers. He hangs up. He breathes out. He pours himself a drink at 10 in the morning. A few weeks later, a shipment arrives at a quiet address in Ontario. Industrial-grade holographic foil, the exact specification used in security applications around the world. Weber solves the UV problem next. Through trial and quiet conversations with paper vendors, he finds a stock that doesn't fluoresce under blacklight. Cotton-linen blend, specific fiber density. The kind of detail most counterfeiters never even consider. Then comes the part that makes no sense to anyone outside the operation. He needs a printer. Not a printing press, not an offset machine. Those would mark him. So he buys an inkjet, a consumer model, off the shelf. Here's the paradox almost no one understands. The home inkjet produces better counterfeit bills than commercial copiers do, because commercial copiers are designed to recognize currency. Anti-counterfeiting software baked into the firmware. Try to scan 100 on a high-end Xerox and the machine refuses, beeps, locks itself. The home inkjet has no such protections. It just prints whatever you tell it to print. Weber tells it to print money. The first run is a disaster. The colors are off, the microprinting blurs, the alignment is wrong. He scans, adjusts, reprints. Brightness, saturation, contrast, pixel placement. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't eat properly. He works. After 3 weeks of refinement, a single bill comes off the printer that even Dustin can't immediately tell apart from the real thing. He holds it up to the light. He runs his thumb over the OSD patch. He flips it under the UV lamp. Nothing glows. "Wes," he says quietly. Weber doesn't look up from the screen. "I know." They walk to a corner store the next day. They buy a pack of gum with one of the bills. They get change. The cashier doesn't blink. They walk out into the parking lot. Anthony laughs first, a short, disbelieving laugh. Then Weber laughs. Then they all laugh, standing next to a parked car holding $98.75 in change from a counterfeit bill. Now they had the formula. All they needed was scale. And greed would take care of that. Coming up, the strange trick they used to make brand new bills look years old. The equipment that let them produce $100,000 in a single print run. And the careless mistake at a car dealership that ended everything. If you want to see how this empire was built and how it broke, hit subscribe. Now back to the operation. 3 in the morning, a bar in downtown Toronto. Wesley Weber stands at the counter. He orders a bottle of champagne, $400. He pays with 4 crisp $100 bills. The bartender holds one up to the light, almost out of habit, and slides them into the register. The bottle arrives. Weber doesn't drink any of it. He carries it to a table where 2 strangers are sitting. He tells them it's theirs. He walks back to the bar. He orders another bottle. He pays with 4 more bills. He's been doing this for hours. The cashier doesn't blink. The bartender doesn't blink. The strangers at the table accept the champagne and raise their glasses to a man they'll never see again. He's not drunk. He hasn't slept in 18 hours. This is what victory feels like. Not the money itself, the flow of it. The proof that the system can't tell the difference. The proof that he, Wesley Weber, the kid no one in Windsor noticed, has built something the Bank of Canada can't catch. By the time he gets home that morning, he spent $6,000. None of it real. The basement, meanwhile, runs around the clock. Dustin has solved a problem that had been bothering Weber for weeks. The bills coming out of the printer were perfect. Too perfect. Crisp. Stiff. Brand new in a country where actual $100 bills were rare and almost always softened by months of circulation. A pristine 100 draws a second look. A worn 100 disappears. Dustin's solution arrives by accident. He's at home one night, watching his clothes tumble in the dryer, when he picks up a stack of poker chips off the kitchen counter. Clay chips. Heavy. Slightly abrasive. He brings them to the basement the next day. "I want to try something," he says. He drops a fresh stack of bills into the dryer with a handful of chips. He sets the timer. The crew gathers around. The chips clatter against the drum like distant gunfire. 11 minutes later, the bills come out looking 10 years old. Soft to the touch, faintly scuffed at the edges. Indistinguishable from currency that had spent years passing through cash registers and pockets. Anthony picks one up and rubs it between his fingers. "That's the one," he says. Production scales fast. Weber upgrades the equipment. He brings in a hydraulic laser paper cutter, precision blades, software for batch processing. Within weeks, the team can produce $100,000 in counterfeit hundreds in a single run. $100,000 from a basement, from a printer you could buy at Staples for $200. Picture it for a second. 1,000 individual bills coming off a single printer, then bouncing in a dryer with poker chips, then stacking up on a folding table next to a half-empty coffee mug. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, for 2 years. The bills test successfully at convenience stores, at bars, at fast food drive-thrus. They test successfully at banks. They test successfully at ATMs. They pass through every layer of the Canadian financial system without setting off a single alarm. That's when something breaks inside Wesley Weber. He stops sleeping properly. He stays awake for 20-hour stretches, moving from store to store, buying things, buying anything. A $4,000 watch he doesn't know how to wear. A pair of leather shoes he leaves in the box for a year. 3 televisions in a single afternoon, delivered to an address he barely uses. The crew watches him spiral. They spiral with him. One night, Anthony stands in the kitchen of the safe house and watches Weber through the basement door. Weber is on the phone with the dealership again, asking about a set of custom rims. Anthony has heard him make the same call 3 times this week. Each time, the order gets more expensive. Each time, Weber sounds more excited. Anthony turns away from the door and goes to bed without saying anything. The thing Weber is doing that he can't see clearly anymore is parked in the driveway. A Mustang Cobra, black, polished. The car he's loved since he was a teenager. The car he's now decided needs custom rims to be perfect. He has the catalog memorized. He knows the dealership. He knows the price. He knows he wants to pay in cash. October 2000. The dealership outside Toronto. The young man hands over a stack of crisp $100 bills, 23 of them. He's paying for the custom rims he's been thinking about for weeks. The cashier counts the bills. She nods, smiles. Then she counts them again. Something is wrong. Not the texture, not the hologram, not the paper. The bills feel real. They look real. Every security feature checks out. But she's a careful person. She trained herself years ago to glance at serial numbers as a matter of habit. Most counterfeiters don't bother randomizing them properly. 3 of the bills share the exact same number. She doesn't say anything to the customer. She processes the transaction. She watches him walk out to his Mustang, climb in, drive away. Then she picks up the phone. Within hours, the bills are in front of investigators. Within days, Wesley Weber's name is on a watch list. Within weeks, every move he makes is being tracked by people he never sees. The crew notices the surveillance before Weber does. It's Anthony who spots the first car. A gray sedan parked across from the basement, 2 men inside, neither of them looking at anything in particular. Anthony watches it for an hour from the kitchen window. The car doesn't move. That night, he tells Weber. "We should stop," Anthony says. "For how long?" Weber asks. "Forever." Weber doesn't answer. He goes back to the basement and runs another batch. This is the part that even the crew can't explain afterward. They knew they were being watched. They knew it was over. And they kept printing. Weber, in particular, can't stop. He's the one who'd been to prison before. He's the one who fears it most. And he's the one who walks into the basement every morning like nothing has changed. One night, Dustin watches him from the doorway. Weber is hunched over a stack of fresh bills, running his thumb across the OSD patches, one at a time. The dryer is rumbling in the corner. The printer hums. "Wes," Dustin says. Weber doesn't look up. "Wes, there's a van outside. Same one as yesterday." Weber keeps working. In October 2000, the authorities decide they have enough. They arrive at the basement with search warrants and tactical support. They've spent months building this case. Surveillance, wiretaps, financial tracing, a list of cashiers who'd grown suspicious about specific transactions. When the officers breach the door, they find the operation in full swing. Counterfeit bills cover every surface. Stacks on tables, stacks on chairs, half-finished sheets still drying, equipment running. Software open on monitors. 2 of the crew members have gold paint on their hands. Mid-application. Caught in the literal act. The lead investigator stops at the threshold. He's been on this case for 7 months. He'd imagined this room 100 times. The reality is bigger than any version he'd pictured. Over $250,000 in counterfeit $100 bills are seized that night. 2,500 individual bills. Stacked on a single table, they would reach the height of a small child. Plus the equipment, the foil, the paper stock, the printers, the means to produce millions more. Wesley Weber is taken into custody. The empire took 2 years to build. It took 90 seconds to fall. Months later, the case moves through the courts. The crew pleads in stages. Investigators reconstruct the operation in forensic detail. The Bank of Canada studies the bills with something close to reluctant admiration. When sentencing comes, Weber stands in a courtroom in Ontario and listens to the judge read the names. Anthony Gabriel, 2 years. Ryan Hodare, 2 years. Dustin, 2 years. Weber turns his head, just slightly, and looks at his crew. They look back. The judge clears his throat. Wesley Weber, 5 years. Weber doesn't react. He'd known for weeks. The disparity makes sense. 3 men helped, 1 man built it. He's 26 years old. It's the second time he's been to prison. It won't be the last. A council chamber in Toronto, 2017. A man in a dark suit walks to the public microphone. He waits his turn. The hearing is on cannabis regulation. The city is preparing for legalization, and councilors want to hear from industry voices. The man introduces himself as Jeff Murray. He speaks for several minutes. He's articulate, specific. He talks about licensing frameworks, zoning concerns, the difference between responsible operators and reckless ones. He recommends inspection protocols. He suggests how cannabis establishments should be monitored. The counselors lean forward. They take notes. One of them thanks him for his thoughtful contribution. Jeff Murray nods politely and steps down from the microphone. Jeff Murray is Wesley Weber. He'd been released from his counterfeiting sentence in August 2006, 11 years before this hearing. Moved to Richmond Hill, sold phones for a while, Then started a financial consulting firm called Goldbridge Financial Incorporated, unregistered, illegal. In 2011, the Ontario Securities Commission caught up with him. 90 days in jail, 2 years probation. His third conviction. He kept going. He launched a cryptocurrency platform called Encryptex. He couldn't list it under his own name, so he signed the founding documents with an alias, Wesley Cam, his wife's maiden name. By the time he stood at that microphone in 2017, he was already secretly running a chain of unlicensed cannabis stores called Cafe. A CBC News investigation would later reveal that Weber wasn't a financier of Cafe, as he'd publicly claimed. He was the founder, the owner. His wife Michelle served as a director. Cafe defied municipal authorities for years. The city eventually had to use concrete barriers to physically block the entrances. Meanwhile, somewhere in Canada, in a police academy classroom, a trainee holds up a $100 bill from the year 2000. The instructor walks through the security features one by one: the hologram, the microprinting, the OSD patch, the paper composition. The bill in the trainee's hand is one of Weber's. His work is now official law enforcement curriculum. The Bank of Canada cites him as one of the most notorious counterfeiters in the country's recent history. While that lesson is being taught, the man behind the bill is somewhere else entirely. Standing at a microphone, signing a contract under another name, building the next operation. Same person, same pattern, different decade. In a classroom somewhere in Canada, a trainee studies a counterfeit $100 bill from the year 2000. The instructor explains its security features. The bill is Weber's. In a council chamber in Toronto years earlier, the same man stands at a microphone giving advice to elected officials. He calls himself Jeff Murray. None of them know who he is. What does it mean when the criminal becomes the curriculum? When the system that caught him uses his work to teach the next generation? And when he, the source material, walks free under another name, building the next operation in a different industry? October 2000, a dealership outside Toronto. A young man hands over crisp hundreds for a set of rims on his Mustang Cobra. The cashier counts them again. 3 bills share the same serial number. That was the mistake that ended the empire. But it never ended the man. How do you stop someone who never learned how to stop?